Hey, Joey Dillon here. Cadillac, a 1927 Cadillac with air brakes. I've known Lynn about 8 years. I've always loved this Cadillac sitting in his barn, and after all this time has gone by, decided to see if we could make a deal, and we did. And now the adventure starts.
I was teaching at Thousand Oaks High School, and as a teacher, kids got out of school about 3, and they had like 3 or 4 hours to kill before their parents came home from work. And so they'd hang out in my shop, metal shop, machine shop, sheet metal. I taught a wood shop over there also. And we'd talk about girls and cars and stuff. And this kid said, "Hey, Thomas, I know where there's an old car." And so sometimes I had to take the kids home, and this sounds terrible, to get rid of them because I had to come home and farm this place. And so I took this kid home, and he showed me where this car was. And so I took the kid home. I came back, and I talked to Mr. L.C. Bird, and he was an older gentleman. I talked about this and that, and told him how much I respected my grandfather, and on, to try to work up to when I would ask him, "Oh," and I kind of did it discreetly. "Oh, I see you have an old car in back. Is that for sale?" And he says, "Oh no, that's not for sale. That's worth $15,000 and I'll never sell it." And so I talked with him a little bit longer, and then I excused myself because I had to get home. And he said, "Well, it was nice talking to you. Come back again." And so I came back to visit Mr. Bird, and I don't know how many years it was, maybe 2, maybe 3. And I'd visit him each time, and I'd ask him about the old car, and the story was the same. I wanted this car, and I dream about it at night, blah, blah. But it was unavailable. It wasn't, I don't know, months later or a year later, I don't know. I took another kid home, and this kid said, "Hey, Thomas, I know where there's an old car." I thought, "Oh no, I hope it's not the same old car." But he took me by, and it sure was. And I said, "Oh no." I've had that car on my mind for I don't know how many years. And I talked to Mr. L.C. Bird over there for all these years, and a delightful old gentleman. I love talking to him, but he thinks the car's worth a fortune, and I don't have 2 dimes to rub together, and he won't sell it. This kid said, "Well, that car doesn't belong to Grandpa Bird, it belongs to Uncle Jack Bird next door." Took the kid home. I went back, knocked at Uncle Jack Bird's door. Uncle Jack Bird came to the door, and I didn't mince any words. I didn't try to get rapport. I just said, "Mr. Bird, I understand that the car next door belongs to you, and I would like to buy it if it's for sale." And he said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, my wife and I have been thinking about selling it." And I said, "Well, how much do you think you might want for it?" In the meantime, my heart was going like this. And he said, $500. And so I sold my first Model T that I was about 3/4 of the way through. I went over there, pulled up in front of Grandpa Bird's house, my heart thumping. I petted the German Shepherd. I knocked at the door, and L.C. Bird came to the door and said, "Oh, I see you've come after the car. Back up here and I'll help you. I'll guide you when you load it." Then I heard the story. That car had been stored in a shed in Seminole Hot Springs for I don't know how many years, probably since the war, 1942. He said, "Yeah, Mr. Ward had this car, and he invented air brakes. And air brakes are on this car, one of a kind." I had a wonderful visit with Mr. Ward, and he told me the story. Yeah, he invented air brakes because these big cars, they were more than the brakes could handle at the time. The cars were getting faster and heavier, and this was before juice brakes. Of course, to try to market the car, he drove it across America, and there's a little sign there that says "Keep Distance, Safety Air Brakes." As Mr. Ward drove it across America, advertising the car, he had flags flying and everything. And so he said, okay, now what do I do? So he started thinking, and he said, you know, maybe my friend, I worked at a Chinese laundry with him when we were kids in Virginia City, Nevada. His name is Walter P. Chrysler. So he called up his friend Walter P. and Walter P. said, yeah, we'll do a deal for every car that is ordered with her air brakes, you could get $1 a wheel royalty. And of course, with the war and with juice brakes coming on, the deal fell through. It was just a handshake deal among friends, and it never materialized. And so this car sat in a shed up there at Seminole Hot Springs so many years since then. And then as Mr. Ward was getting older, he sold the car to Uncle Jack Bird. Uncle Jack Bird sold it to me, and now I am pointing at the brand new owner. I bought it in about 1969 or 70, got it into my name. It's registered to me. I have the brand new license plate still in the paper that I'll give you in a few minutes. I am 80, and I was probably, dang, well, I've had it over 50 years, so do the math.
It's always so many poopies. It's always so much poopy. And archaic and decrepit and yet grand and rusty yet glowing. I love it.